Heartbreak feels like walking through a city that used to be alive with music, but now every street echoes with silence. We've all been there when the world loses its color and even breathing feels like lifting a mountain. Yet, throughout history, human beings have looked for ways to endure pain with grace, to find meaning in what feels unbearable. Long before psychology had a name, the Stoics, the ancient philosophers of endurance, were already mapping the human heart, teaching people not how to avoid pain, but how to live nobly through it. Their wisdom wasn't born in classrooms, but in storms, wars, and losses. Stoicism, the school of thought that shaped minds like Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus, is not about suppressing emotion or pretending to be indifferent. It's about understanding that life will break you open, and that within those cracks lies the chance to build a stronger self. The Stoics believed that the heart's suffering can become a workshop for wisdom. Marcus wrote, "If it's endurable, then endure it." Stop complaining. It sounds simple, but it's profoundly human, not the rejection of pain, but the mastery of one's response to it. Think of the old folk tale where a farmer loses his horse, only for it to return later with a herd of wild stallions. The villagers call him lucky, then unlucky, then lucky again. The farmer only smiles and says, "Maybe." That maybe is Stoicism in action, the calm acceptance of the ever-changing flow of life. So when love collapses and the familiar world disappears, how do we rebuild our hearts without becoming bitter? What lessons can the Stoics and Marcus Aurelius himself offer us about turning heartbreak into inner strength? In the next part, we'll explore not the reasons why hearts break, but the ways in which philosophy can guide us through the ruins toward serenity. Because perhaps the end of one story is not a tragedy, but the beginning of a wiser, quieter kind of love. If this journey through heartbreak and ancient wisdom stirred something in you, if a line, an image, or even a whisper of Marcus Aurelius made you pause for a moment, then stay with us. Subscribe to walk deeper into the calm center of Stoic thought, where pain becomes a teacher and silence holds meaning. Like this video if you've ever found strength in your own stillness, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Tell us, what moment of heartbreak taught you something about who you really are? Your story might be the one that helps someone else find their way back to peace. Number 1. Everyone makes mistakes. Heartbreak often feels like standing in the ruins of a city you built with your own hands. You look around and wonder which moment, which decision, which word turned love into dust. It's human to search for the fault line, sometimes in the other person, sometimes in ourselves. But the Stoics remind us that mistakes are not disasters. They're chapters in the story of growth. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to think, to enjoy, to love. Even after a fall, life grants us another dawn to think, to feel, to begin again." Like a potter shaping clay, every crack can be smoothed, every flaw reworked into something stronger. The art of living, the Stoics would say, is not about never breaking, but about how beautifully we repair ourselves afterward. Imagine a lake at dawn, its surface calm, reflecting the sky perfectly. Now picture a stone thrown into it. The ripples distort the reflection, but only for a moment. Seneca believed our emotions are like those ripples, temporary reactions to life's disturbances. Heartbreak throws its stone into our stillness, but the Stoic practice teaches us not to fear the movement. Instead, to watch it, observe it, understand it. In doing so, the water clears again. This isn't about denial or pretending not to hurt. It's about witnessing the storm without becoming it. Folk tales tell of monks who, when faced with loss, would simply light a candle and whisper, "This too belongs to life." That quiet acceptance isn't weakness, it's wisdom disguised as calm. In an old village story, a young woman lost her fiancé to the sea. Every day, she went to the shore, crying to the waves. One day, an elder sat beside her and said, "Child, the sea didn't take him, it returned him to the world." The Stoics often spoke of seeing events not as punishment, but as part of a greater unfolding. Epictetus taught, "It's not what happens to you, but how you interpret it that defines you." Perspective transforms heartbreak from tragedy into transformation. When love ends, it's tempting to stare only at what's lost. But what if, as Marcus Aurelius believed, the universe is still working in your favor, even when it breaks your heart to teach you strength? When everything you loved slips through your fingers, there's a moment when you stand alone, stripped of your old identity. That's where philosophy meets psychology, where the Stoic tools become deeply human. The rebuilding begins not with forgetting, but with remembering who you are without the love that left. Seneca once said, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." Heartbreak, then, is the polishing stone. It's the moment life asks, "Who will you become after the storm?" The Stoics wouldn't tell you to erase your pain. They'd tell you to study it, hold it to the light, and let it teach you resilience. And perhaps that's where the question begins. When the heart breaks, not why did it happen, but how will you rise from it? Number 2. Let go of self-pity. There's a strange comfort in sadness, the way we wrap it around ourselves like a heavy blanket on a cold night. After heartbreak, that blanket can feel impossible to remove. We replay memories, rewrite moments, and tell ourselves stories of loss until the pain becomes part of our identity. But Marcus Aurelius, writing from the battlefield of both empire and emotion, warned against drowning in sorrow. "Don't waste the rest of your life imagining what could have been," he wrote. The Stoics didn't see pain as punishment. They saw it as material for strength. They would have told us that self-pity is a thief. It steals the present moment while offering no comfort in return. To heal, one must stand, even shakily, and face the daylight of reality again. Seneca once compared the mind to a stage crowded with actors, some noble, some tragic, and some full of despair. When heartbreak enters, the sorrowful actor often steals the show, reciting the same lines of regret again and again. The Stoics taught that the mind's stage can be rewritten, that we can replace the endless monologue of loss with a new script of learning and courage. There's a folk tale of a man who lost everything in a fire but refused to sit in the ashes. Instead, he gathered the embers to light his next fire. That's the Stoic way, not denial, but transformation. It's not about forgetting the story, but giving it a new ending. Heartbreak tests not only the heart but the dignity of the soul. The Stoics valued fortitude, that quiet, inner strength that doesn't shout or curse fate. Epictetus, born a slave, said, "Circumstances do not make the man, they reveal him to himself." The end of a relationship can be such a revelation. It shows us the depth of our capacity to endure, to forgive, to keep our gentleness even when the world turns cold. Think of the mountain in a storm. It doesn't resist the wind, nor does it crumble. It simply remains. That's the kind of strength the Stoics admired. Steady, unshaken, and profoundly human. When love leaves, it often takes color with it. But slowly, with patience, new shades appear, quieter, wiser ones. Marcus Aurelius believed that pain carves space within us for understanding. Maybe heartbreak isn't the end of love, but a deeper invitation to see love differently, to see it not as possession, but as a shared moment in time. In that sense, heartbreak refines us. It strips away illusion and teaches gratitude for what once was. The Stoics wouldn't ask us to be numb. They'd ask us to be awake, to feel, to learn, and to move forward with grace. And so the question remains, if suffering reveals who we are, who do we want to become when the sorrow finally settles into silence? Number 3. Don't limit yourself to the past. Heartbreak has a cruel way of freezing time. You find yourself replaying conversations, imagining how things might have gone differently, and visiting memories as though they were sacred shrines. But Marcus Aurelius once reminded himself, the present moment is all we ever lose. The Stoics knew that living too long in the shadow of what was blinds us to what could still become. They saw memory not as a place to dwell, but as a teacher we visit briefly. In the Stoic view, the past is a lesson, never a home. Like a traveler staring too long at the road behind, we risk missing the horizon that still stretches ahead. There's an old story of a man who built his house beside a river. When a great storm came, the river changed course and swept his home away. The man wept for days, staring at the empty riverbank. But when he finally walked downstream, he found fertile land where the water now flowed, perfect for rebuilding. The Stoics often compared life to a flowing river, constant, unpredictable, but full of renewal. Seneca wrote, "No man steps in the same river twice, for it is not the same river, and he is not the same man." When love ends, we are tempted to cling to the old current, but the river of life insists on movement. Healing begins when we walk with it instead of against it. To the Stoics, suffering was rarely about the event itself. It was about the meaning we gave to it. Heartbreak, then, becomes a question of interpretation. Marcus Aurelius encouraged his mind to paint the event in honest colors, not in the dark shades of despair. If you see the end of love only as loss, you remain chained to sorrow. But if you see it as transformation, you open the door to wisdom. Folktales across cultures echo this truth: the broken clay pot that lets the light shine through, the cracked bell that still sings. Each tells us that what is damaged is not destroyed, it's reshaped into something different, sometimes even more beautiful. When the heart breaks, it feels like a final chapter. But Marcus Aurelius would argue, it's merely a change of season. He wrote, "Time is a river, a violent stream. All that is passes, and another follows. To move on is not to forget, but to accept that life is a series of arrivals and departures." The Stoics believed that clinging to the past chains the soul, while embracing the present frees it. Every heartbreak holds a quiet invitation to grow, to see differently, to love again, not as you once did, but as the wiser version of yourself. And that brings us to the question that philosophy and psychology both ask: when the past calls your name, will you keep answering, or will you finally step forward into the life waiting beyond it? Number 4. Always remember that you have the power to choose. Heartbreak can feel like standing in the middle of a storm, with everything you knew about love and trust torn apart. But imagine Marcus Aurelius walking through the streets of Rome, observing the chaos of life around him, and saying, "The impediment to action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Stoics remind us that while we can't always control the sharp pangs of loss, we can choose how to meet them. Choosing doesn't mean suppressing pain. It means deciding whether to let heartbreak define you or refine you. Picture Maria, a young woman who lost her first love, walking by the riverside each morning. Instead of letting her grief anchor her, she journals, she paints, she listens to the city breathe around her, and slowly she notices the storm softening. Grief often makes us feel exposed, as if the world is watching us crumble. The Stoics encourage building an inner fortress, a place where you can retreat from the chaos. Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." This isn't about detachment in a cold sense, it's about grounding yourself. Imagine a man named Daniel, who faced betrayal from someone he trusted deeply. He didn't run from his feelings. He allowed himself the space to cry, to scream, and then to reflect. Each day he repeated simple truths to himself. He is resilient, he is worthy, and his heart will speak again. Stoic wisdom teaches that heartbreak doesn't diminish your spirit, it tests it, like fire testing gold. One of the most cinematic lessons from Stoicism is the idea of transforming suffering into purpose. Marcus Aurelius writes in Meditations, Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. Heartbreak can immobilize, but it can also propel. Folktales often show heroes rising from despair by doing what feels impossible, building, creating, helping others. Take Lena, who lost a love she thought would last forever. Instead of hiding, she started a small community garden in her neighborhood, giving life to soil as her heart slowly healed. Action became her way to reclaim joy, to remind herself that life continues and beauty still grows. Finally, Stoicism whispers that perspective is a gentle but powerful cure. Life, Marcus Aurelius reminds us, is brief and unpredictable. Do not act as if you were going to live 10,000 years. Death hangs over you. While you live, while it is in your power, be good. Seeing heartbreak as one chapter among many allows us to step back and witness the larger story of our lives. Imagine walking into a theater and realizing the play continues even after the scene you feared would last forever. Each heartbreak, each loss, each tear becomes a moment that teaches depth, empathy, and strength. The curtain hasn't fallen, it's only intermission, and the next act can still be astonishing. Number 5. Rely on yourself instead of dependence. Heartbreak often makes us feel like we've lost our anchor in the world. In those moments, Stoicism reminds us to lean into ourselves instead of leaning on others for our survival. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Look within. Within is the fountain of good, and it will ever bubble up if you will ever dig." Imagine Sophia, who felt abandoned after a long relationship ended. At first, she reached out constantly to friends, hoping someone could fill the void. Slowly, she realized that the truest comfort came when she began to nurture herself, walking in the park, reading by the window, writing letters she would never send. In learning to rely on herself, she discovered a strength she didn't know existed. Pain can feel like a relentless shadow, stretching across every day. The Stoics suggest turning suffering into a teacher rather than letting it control us. Epictetus once said, "Difficulties are things that show a person what they are." Take Alex, who faced betrayal by someone he deeply trusted. At first, he was engulfed by anger and regret, replaying every moment like a storm in his mind. But as he reflected, he began to see patterns, where he had given too much, where he had overlooked red flags. The heartbreak became a mirror, revealing not weakness but wisdom. Instead of being consumed by loss, he used it to grow. Heartbreak often chains us to old memories and regrets. Stoic philosophy teaches that freedom is cultivated inside. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Imagine a woman named Leela sitting in a quiet cafe, staring at a cup of coffee, replaying moments she wished had gone differently. She realized her mind was trapped in what-ifs and if-onlys. Through daily reflection and deliberate pauses, she began to observe her emotions without letting them dictate her actions. Each small moment of self-discipline, choosing calm over panic, reflection over rumination, felt like lifting a chain. She found liberty in her own presence. Heartbreak can feel like the final chapter, but Stoics remind us that it's just one part of the narrative. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Time is a river, a violent current of events, carrying me along, and I can either hold on to a single branch or let the river take me." Think of Tom, whose first love ended abruptly. At first, he believed the story was over. But gradually, he noticed small joys, a friend's laughter, a sunrise, a favorite song. Each day became a page, not a pause. The drama of loss slowly became part of a larger story, reminding him that life continues, that beauty can still surprise, and that the next chapter could be even more remarkable. Number 6. A romantic failure is an opportunity for growth. Heartbreak can feel like a storm tearing through the landscape of your life, leaving you shaken and exposed. But the Stoics teach us to see failure not as an end, but as a lesson in disguise. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The art of living is more like wrestling than dancing." Think of Elena, whose first serious relationship ended in betrayal. At first, she was crushed, believing she would never trust again. Yet, as she reflected on her heartbreak, she began to see it as a mirror, showing her patterns, fears, and strengths she hadn't acknowledged. Romantic failure became not a mark of shame, but a stepping stone toward self-discovery. Heartbreak forces us into uncomfortable spaces where emotions are raw and life feels uncertain. Seneca reminds us, difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. Take Jamal, who felt abandoned after years of love. Instead of avoiding his pain, he allowed himself to sit with it, to feel it fully, like an uninvited guest at the dinner table. Over time, he noticed that the discomfort sharpened his clarity. He became more patient with himself, more compassionate with others, and more attuned to the subtle lessons of life. Pain, when embraced, becomes a quiet instructor rather than a relentless enemy. Heartbreak often feels like the closing of a door, but Stoicism encourages us to see endings as openings for something new. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Imagine Lila, who watched the love she thought was permanent slip away. Rather than sinking into regret, she began painting, exploring hobbies she had abandoned, and reconnecting with friends she had neglected. The ending of one story became the beginning of a richer, more nuanced life, filled with new experiences and unexpected joys. Finally, Stoicism invites us to zoom out and witness life in its broad sweep. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Look back over the past with its changing empires that rose and fell, and you can foresee the future too." Heartbreak is just one chapter in a vast human story. Picture Thomas reflecting on his lost love while watching children play in a park. The grief felt heavy, but the world continued in its rhythm. The seasons changed, laughter rang, and new possibilities arose. Perspective doesn't erase sorrow. It places it in a context where healing and hope can grow, reminding us that life, even after heartbreak, is endlessly unfolding. Number 7. Negative thoughts with rational thinking. Heartbreak can flood your mind with a torrent of negative thoughts. "I'll never love again. I'm worthless. Life is meaningless." The Stoics offer a remarkable tool, rational thinking. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. While this sounds familiar, here the focus shifts. It's not about controlling events, but examining the truth of our thoughts. Imagine Sarah, whose first heartbreak left her convinced she had failed at life. Each night, she wrote down her fears, then challenged them. "Is it really true that I'll never love again? Have I survived pain before?" Slowly, rational reflection cut through the storm of despair, revealing a calmer, clearer mind beneath. Heartbreak often convinces us that our story has ended tragically. Stoics, however, teach that we are co-authors of our inner narrative. Seneca said, "If a man knows not which port he sails, no wind is favorable." Picture Marcus, a young man left by his first love. Every memory felt like a dagger, each thought repeating, "I'm doomed." Through journaling and reflection, he began rewriting the story, not as a victim of fate, but as someone learning resilience and self-understanding. His pain didn't disappear, but it gained context, becoming a chapter of growth rather than a full stop. One of the most cinematic lessons of Stoicism is seeing heartbreak through the lens of impermanence. Life, Marcus Aurelius reminds us, is fleeting. Do not act as if you were going to live 10,000 years. Death hangs over you. While you live, be good. Think of Lila, who spent weeks ruminating on a failed relationship. The days were heavy, the nights silent and endless. Yet, noticing the small cycles of life, a flower blooming, a neighbor's laughter, a train passing, she began to grasp a larger rhythm. Heartbreak, she realized, is temporary. just a single note in the symphony of a long and unpredictable life. Rational thinking becomes powerful when paired with action. Epictetus said, "Don't just say you have read, show that through your actions." Consider Jamal, who felt trapped by his grief. Instead of endlessly analyzing his pain, he volunteered at a community center, met new people, and challenged himself physically and mentally. His mind, once dark with negative thoughts, began to brighten with the clarity of action. The heartbreak remained, but it no longer ruled him. It became the impetus for growth, creativity, and resilience. Number 8. Be prepared for the unknown future, and don't be afraid. Heartbreak can make the future feel like a dark, uncharted forest, every step uncertain, every shadow frightening. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it. In the face of loss, the unknown doesn't have to paralyze us." Imagine Daniel, whose long-term relationship ended suddenly. At first, every plan, every expectation crumbled. Yet, slowly, he began to see the future as a canvas rather than a trap. He didn't know what awaited him, but the mystery became a space for curiosity, adventure, and growth, not fear. One of the most powerful lessons of Stoicism is understanding that nothing is permanent, but impermanence is not despair. Seneca said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." Maria, after a painful breakup, spent nights replaying every memory, feeling hopeless. Gradually, she began noticing that moments, good or bad, pass like waves on the shore. Accepting impermanence allowed her to treasure what she had, learn from it, and let go without being consumed. Each ending became a natural rhythm of life, not a catastrophic failure. Fear of the unknown often shuts down possibility, but Stoics teach that uncertainty can spark ingenuity and courage. Epictetus wrote, "No great thing is created suddenly." Take James, who lost his first love and felt aimless. Rather than succumbing to dread, he started learning to cook, paint, and run marathons, small, daring experiments in a world that no longer followed his expectations. The uncertainty of life became his playground. Each new attempt, each stumble, reminded him that the future is not a threat. It's a space waiting for him to shape it. Finally, Stoicism encourages seeing unpredictability as training for a stronger self. Marcus Aurelius observed, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." Imagine Leah, whose heartbreak had left her anxious and unsteady. By leaning into the unknown rather than resisting it, trying new hobbies, meeting new people, and taking small risks, she began to notice her confidence grow. Each uncertain step became proof that she could survive, adapt, and even flourish. Heartbreak no longer meant the end of her story, but the beginning of a bolder, braver life. For those who stayed with me until the end, thank you. You've journeyed through the storm of heartbreak, walked the shadowed paths of doubt, and glimpsed the glimmers of hope that Stoicism offers. Remember, life does not pause for sorrow. It keeps moving, relentless and beautiful. But now, you are not powerless in its current. You carry the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus, the courage to face the unknown, the strength to transform pain into growth, and the clarity to see your own resilience. Heartbreak may have opened a wound, but it has also opened a door to self-discovery, to new stories, to a life still waiting to astonish you. Step through it with confidence,